Have you led a good life or a life of evil? Diablo, the devil. Some call him the Black Prince. And this is his chariot. When the evil die, this takes them straight to hell.
Hello and welcome to Reginaldesq. I'm Underhook and this is my review of the British Tier 7 heavy tank, the Black Prince. So is it any good? No, it's awful. I hate it. Why? This was actually my first Tier 7 heavy I ever drove because I went up the British line first. And I disliked it so much that I never actually did a review of it, which is why I'm doing one now. I actually swore I'd never drive it again. But then I thought, I've played a lot more now. I'm a lot better player. Probably I just didn't know how to play it. So I thought I'll get it back. I had two original crew members left over, so I thought I'd put them on. And it's awful. It's as bad as I remembered it. So I probably do know how to play it a little bit better now, but even so, it's not very good. Yeah, it really will take you to hell, this tank. It's frustrating as well. So what's wrong with it? Well, it's very slow. Top speed of 20 kilometers an hour in forward means that you're pretty much last on the scene a lot of the time. And the other part of it is the armor's kind of okay, but it has a couple of really bad weaknesses if people know what they're doing. And the main thing is that the speed and the gun is awful. So let's have a look at the awful gun. And I'm going to look at this, and you notice here I've also got the AC4 experimental medium tank and the TOG 2, a premium heavy tank. The only premium tank I ever purchased was a TOG 2 because I was in the clan called TOG, the older gamer. So we all got one. And it was fun. But anyway, I digress. Here's the gun of the AC4 experimental, which is exactly the same as it is on the TOG 2. It's the same gun we actually have on the Black Prince, except it's minor differences. It has a 2.1 second aiming time versus 2.3 seconds on the Black Prince, so it's a quicker aiming time, but the dispersion is 0.39 versus 0.34. These figures, though, as we know for the last couple of years, have been pretty much a work of fiction. They don't really mean anything. And in practice, I've been shooting both guns a fair bit recently, been playing both these things a lot, and I haven't noticed any difference in accuracy at all between the two. They both have 171mm of penetration, which is not bad on the Tier 7, it's not too bad, and damage of 150, which is awful. Very good rate of fire, though, of 12. So how come I'm doing bad in the Black Prince, 47% win rate, but the TOG 2 I've got 59%, and the AC4 experimental I've got 60% win rate? What's the difference? Well, both the TOG and the AC4 experimental are a tier lower. They're tier 6 tanks. Now AC4 experimental is a tier 6 medium. And here we are with a tier 7 heavy tank with the same gun, except it has a slower aim time. And accuracy is about the same. So, yeah, terrible gun on a very slow tank. And the gun doesn't instill fear. So if you're a slow moving heavy tank, people need to be scared to take a hit. That's what stops them getting around the sides and behind you. In this tank, they're not scared. They just drive up behind you, they take a hit, and then they just blast you to death. The thing is that also with this, you might say, well, just track them and then hit them with your rate of fire. But the gun is so weak, most tanks, it won't track them. I've hit tanks in the front wheel, like here, 3-4 times in a row. Usually on the 4th shot, it will track them. It's that weak, this gun. Anyway, let's have a look at the tank and some stats, and then we'll get into some gameplay. I have got a couple of good games for you. Just so you know, the commander has 6th sense and is working on recon. This guy's concealment is working on snapshot. Yes, I know that's weird for a heavy tank. This guy's repairs is working on concealment. This guy has signal boosting, which is weird for any tank. It's one of my first crew members ever. Situational awareness, and is working on repairs, and this guy has concealment, repairs, working on firefighting. So not ideal skills, but at least they are well trained and have some skills. And I have vents and a gun rammer fitted purely to speed up the loading time, since you just need to keep the gun firing as much as possible because it is so weak that you just need to shoot as many times as you can. So I'm trying to speed up the loading time even though it's fast already. And I have vertical stabilizers fitted to make sure that I can hit what I'm aiming at, because it has a fast turret rotation but slow tracks, so you will be moving your turret a lot, so it helps if the stabilizers help keep you accurate during turret rotation. Now I think, can we see here that with all the mods my dispersion says 0.32 here, which is a laugh because it's nowhere near as good as that. And it says that my rate of fire is up to 14.22, up from 12 with those mods fitted. So I have got a pretty good rate of fire and everything on it. But anyway, let's have a look at the armour and compare the tank to some other tanks. Okay, so here we are on Tanks GG. I have the Black Prince, and then we have the Tiger 1, the German. We have the T-29, probably the best Tier 7 heavy tank. The IS, the Russian, so we have the AMX-45 French one, and the ONI. There are a couple more which I didn't include. I haven't got any premiums here, but this will give you an idea. Now, the ONI, just for this comparison, is firing AP rounds, but you'll probably end up firing HE, or I do anyway, out of the thing. So, but anyway, DPM 1800 is about average. It's more than the, well, the ONI with that gun here, forget that. It's more than the French tank and the T-29 apparently, due to the reload speed, but not as much as the Tiger or the IS. So you have to watch this. You will run into a few Tigers if you go to town, and they can out DPM you pretty badly. And also they penetrate you more easily. Here's the reason why. We have 171mm of penetration, which in this comparison is the lowest penetration of any of the Tier 7 heavy tanks. Really, with such a low damage gun, it should have the highest penetration, but it has the worst. The Tiger has 203, and that's why if you get into a brawl with the Tiger, you may occasionally bounce a shot off the Tiger, but the Tiger can punch straight through your frontal armour without a problem. The T-29 has 198 penetration, 175 on S, which is the lowest, 212 on the French, and 190 on the AP ammo for the ONI. Now, the problem with this low pen is that the tank is so slow, you're not going to get side shots on people unless they happen to be driving across an open field and you're in the right position. So if you're brawling in a town or even in a field, you can't flank people in this tank. So that's all that you have to be shooting at heavy tanks front on. And a lot of these tanks, even though their armour is not as thick as the Black Prince, you won't be able to pen them, and you can't track them. So you're just basically a sitting duck. So you're 150 damage compared to 240, 320, 390, 240, 330. So damage is really, really low. Module damage is also low, which is one of the reasons why it's hard to track people. Rate of fire of 12, though, is of course really, really quick. So it only takes 5 seconds to reload. 6.7 on the Tiger. Considering the Tiger does quite a bit more damage, it's not that much worse, but the others are pretty slow, as you can see here. It's a 76 caliber gun, 76mm versus say a 122, so you're not going to overmatch armor as often either. Shell velocity of 844 is reasonably slowish, not as slow as the IS, which is pretty much a close range only gun, but much slower than some of the others, especially the Tiger and the AMX. What else can we tell you that's terrible about this tank? Aim time of 2.3 is really good, same as the T-29. I don't know why the T-29 gets such a good aim time for such a good, powerful gun, but it does. It can do everything, that T-29, except hull tank, but anyway. But the others are a fair bit slower, so it does have good aiming time. Dispersion of 0.3 for a while. Dispersion doesn't mean anything anymore. What else can we tell you about it? Elevation 20 degrees, which is okay, doesn't get you in trouble much. Gun depression of 8 degrees, which is good enough for this tank. Of course, the T-29 has 10, as does the French and the ONI. The IS only has 6, which is great, and the Tiger has 7, which is kind of borderline. The forward speed, yeah, it's terrible. 20 kilometers an hour, which is half the speed of the Tiger, which is the fastest of this bunch. Even the ONI does 25 kilometers an hour. Really? Really? The ONI is faster? Come on, guys. The others all do about 35. Reverse speed of 12 is not the slowest. The ONI is the slowest in reverse at 10. It weighs 50 tonne, and so is the second lightest. The IS is in fact the lightest at 46, so ramming people is pointless in this anyway because it's so slow. The terrain resistances are kind of average. What else can we tell you? The armour will go into in more detail in a moment, but it does have reasonably thick armour, but it's very, very flat. The what else have we got? Health-wise, 1,450 hit points is pretty good. Only the Tiger 1 and the Oni have better in this comparison. The others are a fair bit less, so that helps you survive for an extra shot. And I think that's about it. 370 meters view range is about average. The worst is the Russian, of course. They're always the worst at 350, and the AMX has 360, but the others have 10 meters more at 380. And that's about all there is to say about that. Let's have a look at the armour. So let's have a look at the armour on the Black Prince. You can see the frontal lower plate here is 139 millimeters thick, or about 140 millimeters we can say, which isn't great. So lower plate is pretty weak to frontal hits. It is sloped a little bit, not much though. The upper sort of deck here in front of the driver is 57 millimeters, so it's, if you're about the same height as the gun, well, it says you're going to penetrate there, but I think it normally would be a bit of it's a ricochet there, but if you're a little bit higher, so if you're a tank that's got a bit of height on this tank, you can shoot down to that and pretty much be guaranteed of a penetration. It needs 115 mils. This plate here is 152 millimeters thick. Pretty much all of the Tier 7 heavies can punch a hole straight through it. Even angled, they can pretty much get through if they've got sort of 180 mils of pen or more. The IS might have trouble, but the IS has the manoeuvrability to just drive around the side and put it into your side. The turret is strong and is probably the best thing on this tank. So if we look at this red section here, that is 240 millimeters. Then we have this orange part here, which is 152 millimeters, but it's quite heavily sloped. So as long as you're pointing at the enemy, if you turn your turret away a little bit and point at someone else, they'll put holes in it. But if you're pointing at your target, it's pretty safe. There is this green section here on the roof that's sloped that you can actually see from the front, but it's very well sloped, so they're not going to. It's 50 millimeters. Even if you get higher, I suppose you'd have to be a fair bit higher, but you can pin it if you have a height advantage. There is this strip of armour going in front of the bottom of the mantlet. I don't know what it's for, because it doesn't protect the turret ring. You can still get to the turret ring in there, 152 mils. It just, I don't know, I think it might be designed to stop the turret getting jammed by shells wedging in there. Anyway, it is spaced armour of 30 mil, and it overlies the mantlet, which is 240 mils, as you can see here. So the mantlet is very strong, and even though it's flat-ish, most of them will have trouble penning it. The cupola is thankfully small. It's only 95 millimeters. When I say only, that's not bad for a cupola, but it's pretty small. But if they hit it, they will pen it. The side of the tank is interesting. It has 95 millimeters of armor here, and it varies quite a bit. The upper deck here is only 85 millimeters, this upper section, and right at the back here, this section is 25. So if you are side scraping, people who are very knowledgeable about the tank can put a hole in there. Even though the rest of it looks pretty good, they can put a hole in there. The rest of the tank is really sort of a hodgepodge. There is this cutout section here, which you can see on the live model. That's why I'm showing you in hybrid view here. If you shoot through there, it's not too hard to penetrate. So if someone's side scraping on you there, or you're getting a ricochet, you can shoot in through here and often get a pen. The front wheel is pretty good on this angle. You will track the tank, but it's harder to pen. But if you come in here a little bit, the lower plate, even angled, the lower plate's not that good. Even the upper plate's not that good angled like this. You can still put holes in it. If you go too much, now this starts to become penetrable. So the front gets pretty good now, but the side becomes a bit weak. It does vary quite a bit. This hatch, in the old days when I used to drive this tank, this hatch was a weak point, and these ports here were all weak points. They're not anymore. They got rid of it, thankfully. The rear of the tank is 50 millimeters. Top deck is 19 millimeters. The top of the turret is also 19, except for that bit at the front there, which is 50 mil. The back and side of the turret is 95 mil, which is not too bad. So you might get lower tier light tanks and stuff, bouncing off if they hit the right angle and all that. So it has got that going for it. But this really is a tank you need to use hull down. The problem with it is the gun is close to the deck, and the turret is not forward mounted. In fact, it's slightly back from center, which means if you're cresting a hill to get your gun on someone, let's do it here. I went too much. hang on, here we are. I haven't got enough now. So if I'm at maximum gun depression, which is 8 degrees in this tank, say there, yeah, I'm shooting, but to get that position, pretty much most of my hull has to come over the hill. So whilst this tank needs to be hulled down and it needs hills and rocks and stuff, you can't do really hilly areas because you can't crest the hill. It needs to be gentle slopes where you can just be behind the slope of a hill and, you know, drive along and just have your turret sticking out and shoot from there. That's where this tank does best. It does not do well in towns, and I'll explain that later on. The map is steps, and we're in luck because it's a tier 7 game. We're top tier, and there are only 2 tier 7 tanks on each team, so ideal lineup for this tank. Tier 8, tier 9 games, a bit of a disaster in this tank. The armour just doesn't hold up, and being so slow, you can't get away either, and you can't damage them with the gun. So it tends to be a situation of you just get blasted. I had a couple of reasonable games in tier 8s and okay in tier 9, but very few and far between and not worth showing, unfortunately. So the enemy team has a KV3 and a T71A. That's their 2 tier 7 tanks, and we have myself, the Black Prince, and SP1C as our tier 7 tanks. So I'm just going to speed this up a little bit to 2 times while we're moving across here because the tank's pretty darn slow. So these sort of undulating hills where you can just sort of conceal the body and let the gun poke over is ideal for this tank. Like I said, it's no good at cresting hills. It really needs to have like a line of rock or a bump that's in front of the tank. That's why I'm going over this area here, because it does have that. And then we've got the T71A. We fire, we miss him somehow, and he hits us, but we bounces. That OI experimental bounces off us as well. Luckily he's not using HE, but that one he puts into us, I'm pretty sure that went straight through our cupola. That was a pretty good shot from him. Well done. Now cop that. So we get the 174. That was pretty good damage for this gun. I think average damage 150, so we rolled high there. We bounced another shot from him as well. His gun's doing 125, but he is a tier 5 heavy tank. So yeah, so we do a similar damage to a tier 5 heavy tank. And so a lot of the other tanks doing similar to what we would be doing from that side, trying to use the ridge to protect their hull and just exposing their turret. Now we've got the KV3 right in front of us here, and I'm really worried about him. I bounce off from his hull, he just slams me straight through the front of my tank for 391 damage. Yeah, so that's one we didn't include in our comparison, was the KV3. As you can see, the gun does a little bit more damage than mine. He actually bounces that shot off my turret, thankfully. And we managed to finish off that OI there. I'm trying not to worry about the KV3 much. I can't do much unless he comes around like this, so we put a shot into him here. Trying to angle my hull just a bit, but he actually didn't shoot at me. He shot at the tank behind me. So the only thing stopping that KV3 from driving around the corner now and just basically destroying me, nice one, the T1 there, is the tanks behind me. Otherwise he could just drive up, put the front of his tank against the side of my tank and just wait for reloads. So I go for the track there to try and track him, but it doesn't work, and then I remember that you can't track tanks with this tank, so I start shooting his lower plate, and he puts another one straight through the front of my tank for 457. And we put another one in for 127 damage. He'll be shaking in his boots. And luckily my teammates are shooting at this guy as well. And I accidentally do target lock, but luckily it locks onto a pretty good spot in the flat armor. And then we get another one through into his hull and he dies. So a bit of a epic battle there between the two of us, but luckily I had people behind me shooting at him as well, which, like I say, was the only thing that kept me alive. Without that support behind me, I would have been killed by him much more quickly. Much better tank than this one, in my opinion. Even though I've never driven it, just from playing against it in this thing. Probably exposing a little bit too much of my tank there. He misses, fortunately, but my gun's too high over the ridge, so my hull is probably a little bit exposed. Luckily, he probably doesn't have the ability to pen it reliably anyway. Oh no, he probably could. And we finally get him. So now the enemy team only has 4 tanks left, and and we've only lost 2, so we've done pretty well. Now, a lot of maps where there's a town, and you have a choice between a town, you've got a choice between land like this, or artillery, and we only just got in, that went wild, that shot. And my teammate, unfortunately, is sitting right in front of my target, so I'm not going to get the kill on Artie, but here comes the SU-85, and we set him on fire. So he's dead. End of the game. Okay, so that turned out to be a Class 1 game of the tank. We also got high caliber. Yay! So we finished on top for our team with 2,170 damage and 1,004 XP. The KV3 on the opposition finished on top for their team with 1,141 damage, and I'm pretty sure that was nearly all our hit points that he was taking there. 28 shots fired, 21 of them hit, 16 penetrated. So even at top tier, we do bounce a few shots. 217, as we said, 293 at long range. Not sure exactly what I hit over 300 meters. Hits received 9, penetrations 4, so I managed to bounce 5 shots or 1,180 damage, which is not bad. The tank has 1,450 hit points, so it's pretty good bouncing. The armor holds up well as long as you can keep that hull covered. Okay, the map is, what's it called? Overlord. One of the guys says to me, "Prince, which way?" And I type back, "No idea." We are top tier. There's 3 tier 7s on each team. The enemy team has an IS, a Comet, and an SU-12244. We have myself, Comet as well, and an SU-152. So fairly balanced, except for me and an IS. Anyway, I really didn't have any idea where I was going to go. I just know that I need to use gentle ridges and stuff. If I had... I thought about going down the bottom, but really, you know, if people start shooting me, they'll have access to my hull, and I can't do anything about it, and I can't move, I can't escape. So I decided that I see that a few tanks have been spotted up this way, so I decided to come up and engage, and hopefully I can use this bit of a ridge here to hide my hull. Although there is Artie in the game, so I won't be surprised if I get blasted by them. And the 152's come up this way as well, and we also have a Leopard here, but he's just almost dead already. So we find the enemy Comet, and it's a VK3001H. I think I really liked that tank when I played it. Oh, I missed him anyway, and there's a KV1 there as well, tier 5 Russian heavy. We put one into him, he stays out a bit long, 151, so pretty much smack on average damage there. And that's an M6 over there. We bounce off the M6's turret, tier 6 American heavy tank. So we've run into all the heavies, and this time we go through his turret. Turret is pretty strong at tier 6, but not so good at tier 7. Whereas our tank, our turret's very good when we're top tier. So those guys copped a beating. That Comet is nearly gone. Now I decided here to take a chance and go across, even though I know there's still a tank behind there. But I'm prepared to take a hit to get to this position. So I see him there, put one into him, but he actually tracks me and stops me, so I use my repair kit, and then there's a mystery SU-12244 up there. He misses me, luckily. Even though I got tracked, I haven't actually lost any health yet. So now I've got shots on this guy. Why he's driving along the ridge line, I think, did we track him? Or did he just stop? Anyway, we didn't do any damage to him. That time we did. And now we get another shot into him, 153, so pretty much on average damage there. Is that guy popping up? Oh, there's a guy down there. Okay, I missed that. Now we've set this guy on fire. He's coming around to shoot us. He's going really slow, so I think his driver got killed or something as well when he set him on fire then, because he just turned really slow, luckily for us. So now we've got the Comets decide to come out and have a go. He bounces off us and we bounce, or his tracks absorb our shot. Not this time though. Now if he's smart, he will stop and pull him behind that rock. He's not smart. Not a good driver. Now we are getting beaten. I decide that the right hand side is clear now, so I decide to move up, but I'm keeping my gun pointing that way just in case, and wham, I get hit by a Hellcat and a Wolverine, and now I've just been hit by another Hellcat from my left as well. So there's the M6, and I bounce off him, and he hits us for 250, so now I've been hit by artillery. Everything is going wrong. So I'm trying to keep my armour sort of pointed the other guys, just having a shot there at the M6. I want to turn in and face the M6, but I can't do it while my left hand side is exposed to that Hellcat, so now I can turn my hull. I'm going to back right in here to stay away from artillery and the tank destroyers on my left, and hopefully I'm expecting the the Hellcat here to come down on my right there, to come zooming down with his turret pointing at me and take a shot. I can't quite get this M6. One more shot will probably kill him. I've been spotted, probably by the M6, I suppose. Now I'm just looking around. I'm waiting for this Hellcat to come out, but I also don't want to get surprised by the M6. He's gone off my radar now, so if he pops out, I might take a second to spot him. And, oh, there's the Hellcat. How's that? Didn't even appear on my radar, I don't think, until he shot me. So we got one into him. I go for the track, and we hit him, and it does track him, I think. So, well, I lied, you can track things. We get another one too, so I've had 3 shots into him, and he finishes us off. Yeah. That's that. And we've only got 1 tank left, and they've got half their team left. So that was a Class 2 game. We got high caliber, and that was the game where I got my mark of excellence in the tank. So, yeah, we hit a few tanks and all that. What did we do? We did 2,152 damage, and which, by the way, I don't do very often. You really have to be top tier, and remember that with the new matchmaking, there's only 3 top tier, so that's only 20% of your games are going to be top tier. And that's really the only time you have much of a chance in this tank, in my opinion, anyway. So, yep, we had a good game. And 20 shots fired, 16 hit, 14 penetrated. We did 2,152 damage. He's received 13 hits, 8 of them penetrated, which isn't great, but we did get caught sort of side on there. 835 blocked by Armour, damage 5 destroyed 2, did a bit of assistance damage as well, and there you have it. Hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for watching my review of the Black Prince. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, please give it a thumbs up. If you'd like to see more, please subscribe to Reginaldesq. Have fun.